Let's go!
Remember the first time you jumped into Bomb Battlefield's painting? Maybe, but probably just to see the much larger landscape inside, and that awesome tune playing through your TV speaker. I don't have any hard data, but I imagine most people's first playthroughs, they just jump in without any second thought. I mean, it's obvious, right? That's how you access the first course. But the game never actually tells you to directly do it. Certain signs and characters mention monsters being behind the paintings, but there's never a prompt that says, jump into the painting. Considering the amount of things the game does tell you right at the beginning, you would think that they would. So how did we know? I want to take you through Super Mario 64's opening and how it guides you to start the game proper and sets you up for success later. Many game designers, including Shigeru Miyamoto, have expressed difficulties in getting people to do what you meant them to. Something that seems very simple might actually stump people, and getting that kind of reception makes you think you need to change your game. It takes a lot of expert design to wordlessly teach your players how to play the game. Even as early as the original Super Mario Bros. On NES, this was a concern, and it took a lot of ingenuity from Miyamoto and Tezuka to get World 1-1 to be perhaps the most iconic tutorial stage ever. So for Mario 64, a game that might be the first 3D game for many people at its release, to trust the player in this way is very brave. In previous Mario games, either you automatically started in the game or had an overworld menu that you picked from. This is the first time we had a hub world that is a miniature version of the whole game. You go from level to level using the same controls as the rest of the game. This is an incredible decision, not just because it makes the game a lot more fun to replay, but it also gives you a safe space to move around and get adjusted to the controls. Even in the area before the castle, you have a large open space where it's incredibly difficult to even harm yourself, and has water to restore your health if you manage to do so. There's even an extra life hidden here just in case, so you can still practice to your heart's content. Moving on, when you first enter the castle, you're greeted with the prompt from Bowser. This serves as a narrative piece for the game, but it allows the camera to sit at this angle for a small amount of time. It's a bit of an awkward angle, so you might think to change it since the Lockito just told you how to do it like 5 seconds ago. But the game doesn't let you do that, and you just got that annoying beep. While that might just be a flaw for the game at large, it actually puts good use here. The camera system in general might be Super Mario 64's biggest innovation. Even if it isn't perfect, they still make good use of it. So your only option is to move forward, but this allows the camera to pan to exactly where you have to go, focusing on the door to Bomb Battlefield. A more traditional camera system would just hover behind Mario at all times, and most likely pan to the stairs instead. The railing here might have been a mistake. If it were gone, it could have maybe emphasized the correct door a little more. Either way, it's a two-pronged approach of highlighting where you're supposed to go by taking advantage of its revolutionary camera system, and of course blocking you from everything else. Again, you might think, well, yeah, it's obvious, you can only go one way, but you have to put yourself in the mindset of someone who may have never even played a game at all before, let alone a 3D one. Just because there's only one way to do something doesn't mean that a player is going to get it. Once you learn a lot of these little tricks that designers have, it's hard not to see in a lot of the games you play. Even if it's subconsciously, you tend to know what to do in video games, just from experience in other games. But let's get back on track. Okay, so you finally enter the room, and again the camera is being used well here. At this angle, Mario takes up a large chunk of the screen, and just about everything else is being occupied with the painting, signaling its importance. Now, some very subtle level design gets put into place here. The painting is on an elevated surface. Your two options are to take the stairs, which requires moving out of the way, or you can simply jump. Doing a double jump from the ground into the painting is so natural that I wouldn't be surprised if some people just jumped into it by complete accident. But for argument's sake, let's say you didn't jump straight into it. The only other actions other than jumping we've been directly told to do is to use the B button to hit and read signs. If you decide to walk over and press the B button, it'll let off a huge ripple effect on the painting. All level entries do this when Mario gets near them, and this should give you enough curiosity to at least try and interact with it further. Considering all the tricks they use with these paintings, such as determining the water level in Wet Dry World, having them be a mirage for shifting sand land, only visible in the mirror for Snowman's Land, and determining the functions of the clock on Tick-Tock Clock. If it wasn't this obvious, I think this would be a source of confusion for people. No one ever talks about how unique those aspects are, because I think it's so well telegraphed that we just accept them. The last little detail I'll share with you is there's a nice red carpet leading from the outside of the castle right up to that little platform I was talking about. Next, I want to talk about the first star you're intended to get. I say intended because technically it's possible to get other stars instead of fighting King Bob-omb on the summit of the mountain. They do try and lock you out of the other stars, other than the Chain Chomp star, which I assume they were banking on most new players to not even attempt. The Koopa race is only loaded when you select the second star, which is only unlocked after grabbing the first. so that is successfully locked away. Shoot to the island in the sky, find the 8 red coins, the 100 coin star, and Mario Wings to the Sky are supposed to be locked behind the cannon not being available in the first star. I say supposed to because you're not intended to be able to jump onto the island. While it is technically still possible, it's a very specific jump. Shoot to the island in the sky is inside a box on the island. The 8th red coin is also held in the tree there, and there are only 94 coins on the grounds of Bomb Battlefield, meaning the only star actually locked behind the cannon is Mario Wings to the Sky. Longer than needed side notes aside, the first star forces you to learn 2 things. How to pick up and throw objects. This is the only way to defeat the King Bomb and Bowser. The second is that no matter how many times you throw him off the mountain, this will not damage him. He'll just keep jumping back up. This is true for Bowser as well, with the added difficulty of having to throw him into the bombs. King Bomb even directly tells you to pick him up and throw him from behind. There's also boxes in the level to help you get adjusted to the mechanic, and the only way to kill a regular bomb manually is to pick it up and throw it. So they really try to drill it into your head, and while still giving you a safe space to master the mechanic. So with the first star cleared, designers can assume every player now knows how to defeat Bowser, at least conceptually. Finally, I want to talk about the unlock structure just a little bit. If you played the game, you know that the courses are very open-ended in terms of which you can play, and if you really wanted to, you could skip some entirely. I think it's great because, again, mastering the controls is part of the game, and it's possible certain tricks are easier for other people. Consequently, certain levels and stars are going to be harder for some people to get, but it also doesn't stop better players from doing what they think is the most fun or optimal. For example, speedrunners of Super Mario 64 need to not only be skilled to aim, but have an optimal star path to get the fastest time. So it lowers the skill floor and raises the skill ceiling. Or players like me, who are experienced but still really casual in the grand scheme of things, can skip the slower pace levels. I want to note that the first barrier to Bowser is locked by 8 stars. I think this is a subtle way of ensuring the players will try different stages, since every main course has 7 obtainable stars. They also try to make sure you leave Bomb Battlefield to get the wing cap, which is locked behind 10 stars, but it is technically possible, but incredibly tedious and requires guesswork to get the Mario Wings to the Sky star. So even if you brute force that star, you have to at least try to get one more in a different stage. So by the end of beating Bowser in the Dark World, the designers are sure that the player can beat the final boss and has entered multiple levels. Everything else is up to you, and the game provides a variety of different challenges to encourage the mastery of its movement. With that level of freedom allowed now, developers can defy your expectations at a moment's notice, and the game definitely takes advantage of that. But most importantly, these considerations for the player are subtle and non-intrusive. One of the key things for any Mario game to have is to have anyone at any skill level pick it up, play it, and have a good time within a minute or two. Super Mario 64 does this expertly without being at the expense of better players with all these little tricks. Countless numbers of games have learned many lessons from Mario. If only more of them could follow suit with this lesson too. If you enjoyed this video, I'd be happy if you consider subscribing. And with that, I'll see you next mission.